Everyone is here tonight except for Ms. Turner. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I'd like to welcome our student council representatives, Natalie and Matthew, to tell us what's going on here at the end of the year. Hi, thank you for having us. We're really excited because last Wednesday at school we decorated the entire building with performing holidays. We had 4 different themes. We had Hanukkah, New Year's, Winter Wonderland, and Christmas. So we had all of those holidays. And then we also had photos of Santa yesterday out front of the cafeteria. So people could go and pay $1 to have a photo of Santa, and then the photos will be delivered to them on Friday before break. And it was really successful, so we're excited about that.
And today there was also a field trip where Leaders of Tomorrow, leading today, and the cheerleaders went to St. Anne's to make the references with little kids.
And then Empowering Student Voices Club and SAD Club both have displays in front of the cafeteria. One of them is where you can sign up to not take and drive over to the holiday break, and then the other one is where students can write something that they're thankful for, looking forward to, and it made a really nice pattern and says we are thankful, so that's really cool.
And last Friday, the bands, orchestras, and chamber singers went to the plaza to perform. It was really nice. They were great. We had a great audience. And chamber is also going to perform, and Carol, this Friday.
And then lastly, it's just Spirit Week this week, so we have 2 fun days coming up. We also have the Tuesday, Wednesday. But on tomorrow we have Ugly Sweater Day, and then Friday we have Pajama Day, and it's break. So have a good break, everyone. That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great break.
So next, we're looking for approval for the draft minutes from the December 3rd meeting. RP and Mr. Temple weren't present. Any questions or comments? Can I have a motion to approve? Robert, a second? Rob, all in favor? Any abstentions? Great. Moving to our first board forum, I'll start with RP.
No, I'm good. Other than Holly, I listened into the presentation. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you so much.
I would just say I'm just shocked at the numbers. However, from what Mr. Wagner has said and the principals, it seems to be working, even if the kids don't have their phone in the microphone. So I thought it was very interesting. And it was you, Sam. Someone said we should do it again next year to see what the kids. Pretty cool. Well, thank you.
And I just want to say I got to go to a few concerts for middle school last week and the high school this week, and all of our musicians were fantastic. I'm always impressed with how well they perform. So moving to our first public forum, residents, students, employees, and business representatives of the East Greenbush Central School District may address the board on matters concerning programs and/or operations of the district, other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns during a public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing are prohibited and will be declared out of order. All comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Ms. Reno?
How do I need the microphone?
The microphone helps for the people who are listening to us on streaming. And if you wanted to pull up the chair too.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Bobby Reno, and first of all, good evening. I'm the East Greenbush Town Historian. and I'm here on behalf of working as my job for the town historian. I have sent to the board previously some information about a soldier that was executed during the War of 1812, that I have done research on, going on over 15 years now, doing the research. It is from my documents, from my research, it is apparent to me that he is buried behind the Red Mill School. I have provided, I don't know if you've received any information. I haven't heard back from you whether you've received any information that I have presented, but I've made copies for you if you need on my documents and my research. But what I'm asking, what the town of East Greenbush is asking, I've tried to have you did agree to a GPR scan that was done February 2022, I believe is when we first started. And we did find areas of possibility where a grave could be, or some type of grave could be. However, I cannot get an archaeologist to do anything further. The town of East Greenbush has paid for this. The school district has not paid for anything of this. So what I thought would be a resolution to this would be to put up a cenotaph, a flat paper marker with the soldier's name. And nothing inappropriate to the ages of the children at Red Mill School, nothing about executions and so forth. But my research has proven that this man was tried by an illegal court-martial for desertion and was wrongfully charged with desertion. He was AWOL. So all of this, I do talks on this, done numbers talks before school classes and so forth on it. And what I think is that when we find something in history where there's been an injustice, we can't change it. It's already happened. But I think what we do is try to tell about this injustice and do the best we can to find some justice for the individual and persons that were the victims of it. And I think a cenotaph would be an appropriate thing to place with the soldier's name, War of 1812, 1813. I've tried to get the town, we're working on doing a QR code on the cenotaph where if somebody wants any more information, they can scan it, but the codes keep canceling out. The codes keep timing out on it, so we'd have to work on that. So what I'm seeking, and not right now, but I'm hoping, I want to know if you've received your information and will you make a decision to allow us to put this cenotaph up. No cost to the school. Rockefeller Funeral Home has agreed to do the cenotaph. The town says they will do the work for it, placed where you decide if you want to do it, where it's to be appropriately placed, and landscaped by the town. So that's my purpose for here, to find out what the status is, and will you make a decision and let me know. Okay. And if you need this material, I can leave this here.
Could you leave it with our clerk?
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wagner?
Good evening, Dan Wagner, President of the EGTA. Also, Mr. Reno, I just want to say thank you for all you do as a history teacher. I think it's awesome to have a town historian, and that's awesome. That's amazing information. The East Greenbush Teachers Association just wants to thank the board for everything, all the volunteerism and everything that they do for the district and the team. I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe holiday. It's been an interesting and tough beginning to the year, you know, with the high of the cell phone bans and some losses. So I want to make sure everybody has a happy, safe, healthy new year. All right, so that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Dan, I don't remember the day, but has it been said that there's going to be the benefit for Mr. Hill?
Oh, sure. Yes,
I don't remember the day.
So January 16th, there's going to be a dime to donate at the recovery room in East Greenbush, and I have a 90s rock cover band, and we're going to play. as well. So.
Who's in the band?
from 6 to 9. It's me, Mr. West. Thanks, bro. And our friend, Brendan McBroggan, who has no relation to East Greenbush, but our bass player is White, whoever teaches at Cal. That's our teacher.
So it's a Friday night?
Friday
Oh,
night,
nice.
6 to 9. Tell your friends, tell everybody, it's gonna be a good time.
Yes.
Moving on to our reports and presentations, we have our capital project update.
I'll invite up Connor and fellow associates to give us an update, be focusing primarily on the work that was completed in October and November. It's a status update in partnership with Ms. Morgan on where we stand overall vote on the project as well. Michelle, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm with Turner Construction Company. I'm the construction managers on for the capital project. So I'm just gonna give a quick update about capital project. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So currently construction is on the way for phase 1B over at Goff Middle School. So some of the work that we have completed in November, the installation of the fill and the sub base for the roadway between the front of Goff to Hayes Road. So we put the fill and sub base for that. We've demoed the baseball field that was currently going to be the new track and field. We've also removed the topsoil of that track and field area and started placing fill for that. We've also installed the foundations for the new sports lighting, the Musco lights. And some of the works that we're currently working on in December is installing the drainage system, the underground infiltration system, and associated piping for that. This is on there as planned work, but it's actually complete now as of yesterday. Installation of the new sports lighting poles. The poles have been placed. They're not on yet, but they have been placed. There was a crane out there yesterday. But yeah, those are some of the pictures of the work that we did in November.
Before you go on, can I ask a question? As far as the drainage systems, where are those located, if you know offhand?
So the underground infiltration system, the storm tech system, is currently under what will be the D zone area of the track and field.
Is that closer to like the existing baseball field? Like, far away from Hayes Road?
Yeah, it's far away from Hayes
Yeah.
Road, so it's pretty much kind of right behind the middle school, kind of in that open field of that used to be the football field, I guess. So next up is phase 2, the bid and construction timeline. So we released the advertisement to bidders November 11th, 2025. We had our pre-bid walkthrough November 18th. We're going to be opening bids tomorrow, December 18th, here at 2 p.m. And the hope is to present the low bids to you guys at the January 14th board meeting. If all things go well, anticipated construction start is that spring, or not spring, February break. So next up, just a short change order contingency summary. Some of the change orders that we had in October and November, we really only had 2 that was executed. One of them is the topsoil at the discus pad. So over at the high school, we had put in a new discus pad. We had to put some extra topsoil to kind of feather out the grade in front of the discus pad. So change order for that. But then we also had a pretty large credit come back for the unused allowance for the roofing contractor. So overall, change orders that were executed in October, November, a credit, a deduct of roughly 26,000 from the contracts for phase 1A. So contingency summary, phase 1A, we started out holding 122,000 for change orders. Through September 30th, we had roughly 72,000. And then with the ones executed in October and November, that was a deduct of 26,000, equaling a total change order of roughly 46,000. So with that, we had a remaining contingency of roughly 76,000 for phase 1A, which would eventually just go back into the pot of money for future phases of the capital project. For phase 1B, we had allocated 160. With construction on the way, we haven't seen any unforeseen conditions at the moment. So we didn't have any change orders up until now. So still have 160 remaining. The construction budget summary, I just want to note that this is no change from the last time we had reported on it. Just a refresher for you guys, as we are going to get open bids tomorrow. So just another visual so that next time when we come back in January, this will get obviously updated with phase 2 numbers. That's all I have. So next, Jen.
Thank you, Michelle. So the next two slides is just an overall budget summary for the project. I added a little bit more context to the budget reports. The full budget reports are located under the financial report section under the consent agenda. So you'll see the October report there and also the November report to be accepted. So there is some additional context, but overall, as of November 30th, there's about 75% of the budget that's still available, or 87 million. And our construction and incidental costs to date are approximately 10 million. And overall, we've committed and spent about $29 million. So just an overview of where we are. Michelle will be reporting out on that, but just from like a big picture, phase 1A, we're actually in the closeout phase. So we're in the process of getting our warranties, our closeout binders, turners that helping with that. And then also we're getting close to the final cost reports. So changes soon. Everything is coming together. Obviously, phase 1B is the field and the interior work is related to the elevator and that construction phase, and to the fitting phase and phase 5. And then moving on to the next page, it's just.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
The number that's been committed, say 29 million. Phase 1A and B looks like it equals 16 million. Where's the other 12 or so million? Is that soft cost? It would be the slide before this one.
Oh, the slide before the construction budget summary, that's just construction,
Okay.
just the overall construction budget. So the information that I'm sharing with you is the project overall. That includes our soft costs and the construction. So it's more of the complete picture versus the construction side of the house.
Okay.
So really, these last two slides are looking at the project. And the very last slide is just addressing the overall project. The detailed, by phase is included in the financial report, which you can review to see what the details are by phase. I also gave some additional descriptors as to what each of these columns mean in terms of the initial budget adjustments and revised current budget, what project to date expenditures we have, and what contracts we have executed, and then what's.
Jen, like associated with that question, when we say funds committed, like the 1A and 1B, is the initial budget gonna be part of like the fully committed? Like, so if 1A is basically done, and then we're in 1B and that is underway, and are we saying that that's fully? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. So that's the very first line, phase 1A in this report. So that original budget started at $9 million.
So far, we've spent with construction and soft costs, we've actually spent, even cash out the door, fully expended, just under $7.2 million. We still have commitments, meaning contracts that we have not fully paid for yet, which is mainly comprised of the retainages on the construction contracts. That is representing the $464,000.
Yeah.
There's also a little bit of soft costs in there.
Yeah.
We're still in the final phases, but you can see the final flows out of this, and there's some incidental costs still coming through. But that remaining unencumbered balance is basically pretty close to the $1,374,000 is pretty close to what may be still available for future phases. So that hasn't been spent. That's the amount. We're probably getting pretty close to that number.
Okay.
Pretty
So then the number of 1.3, so the construction budget is, we get like 70, we have an extra, if you will, 72,000, right? That was the contingency fund?
That's just the contingency fund.
Okay.
So one of the things that as part of the construction contracts is Turner built in an allowance of contingency funds to, in case something comes up. So that isn't representative of what the remaining construction budget is
Okay.
necessarily, because based on how the bids came in, the bids made it very favorable. So in addition to favorable bid results, there also could be unspent.
I got it. So our initial budget is not there, but got it.
The initial budget on this report includes soft costs and
Yeah.
construction.
Okay, thank you.
And part of what you can see is if you go into the detailed reports under the consent agenda.
Yeah.
If you look at the detailed report by phase, there's a summary at the bottom of each phase that says what the construction is, the site construction versus the incidentals. Taking those numbers together, I could show you more specifically, but they
Yeah.
reconcile back to Michelle's slide on the construction.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? That's all I have, so any questions? Comments? Thank you. Thank you.
Right, moving on to our discussion items. The first is school start times. So Dr. Coates.
So as you may recall, earlier in the school year, I brought some summary data to the Board of Education in regards to work that had been done prior to COVID regarding investigation on the potential of moving start times, switching it around with either elementary and secondary, secondary and middle, or any combination thereof. And there had been some research in terms of transportation, what the ancillary costs may be. There had been a community survey on it. It had run up until just before COVID and then stopped. There had been, from what we could ascertain from board minutes, no final direction to either proceed or not to proceed. So the previous direction from the board was to bring it back to long-range planning committee. We had some very good conversation at our previous long-range planning committee. We looked at some of the evidence that was there from previous studies, from the surveys that were done. And the recommendation of the long-range planning committee was to bring it back to board to consider whether or not the board wanted to give direction to the administration to reinitiate investigation into this matter, or simply this is not the right time for the district and we need to pause and potentially consider that further. So I bring it to you tonight with the understanding that if you give direction that we would like to know more, what I will do is take the entire paper file that we have. I will scan it in its entirety so that you can see all of the information that was done. Or you can make a decision now to say, we don't want to explore this any further. It's just not the right time for our district, and let's pause and perhaps we can reopen this again in the future. So I give you that context to open this up for discussion. Obviously, I can take any direction that you may have to offer from that.
I'm not, I think that we have so much other stuff going on right now. I don't know that we have to do you personally or the whole team or us have time. Considering I'm sure this is gonna cost money to even study it, and I'm not sure we have the money or unless there's free grants out there for it. And my other thing when we first brought this up is, I don't think it really works if we're the only suburban council school doing this. But again, you would know, people that work here in the administration would know if I'm dead wrong. on that.
Yeah, so just to keep in context costs. So from a research perspective itself, we have a brand new transportation director who has a lot more experience, who has gone through this in another district. We could potentially mitigate some of the research costs in transportation with his expertise. I don't think we would be able to get rid of it altogether. Sometimes you just need a third party to sit with you and review what you think. There are some schools that we have found that have done this. So Niskayuna, we had a conversation with, has made the switch and they've stayed with it. Troy has also done it, they've stayed with it, but Gilderland, where our new transportation director just came from, they did it for 1 year, had such a negative experience with it, and then went back. And we've seen that several times, so I think the challenge is a regional approach to this makes it far more palatable, because when you think about not just the impact to our community, but to the services that we access, BOCES services, participation in interscholastic athletics, third-party services that we use for students for out-of-district education, for whatever the reason may be. All those can be impacted if your start times don't align. It's not to say that it's not doable, but it's something that could impact how far we can really
I think everyone that's done all the work on this already, before COVID and recently, I think similarly, I feel like, we have a lot on our plate. We have a new superintendent, a new director of transportation, 4 new board members, and I'm speaking for myself. Veteran board members might feel more comfortable with this right now, but maybe, I'm neutral on the topic. I'm open to hearing more about it, but maybe we could visit it in a year, when everyone's a little more settled. That might be a better time, and others. And how others might feel.
I agree 100% that there would, I think there's a lot of other priorities to kind of focus on, and I think really have a targeted efforts to kind of dive deep on. I'd rather get deep on a couple items than kind of, less on more.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I understand that our start times, like we're at high school, are very early. Is there a lot of, are you getting calls from parents, or is there concern, or is this kind of, okay?
The only thing that I've heard anecdotally is that our high school start time is a little early. And I'll put a caveat in here. There is the possibility to investigate that without upending the whole district to see if maybe we can push the start time a little bit. That would not require us to do a complete transformation.
How much earlier is the high school start time compared to the middle school?
I don't have the binder. I'd have to look. I don't want to misspeak without having it in
I
front
feel
of
like it's fairly close.
It is close,
Yeah.
yes. And part of that conversation was whether or not that could be adjusted at all. The buildings are just that far apart from the transportation perspective, and why they have that another tiered run, and why they can't parallel exactly.
I agree, and especially considering that when we looked through the survey collection of the strategic plan, this wasn't. Wasn't seeing a we asked the community what they were concerned about, and this didn't come up. So I have high school. I agree that start time is early. It is early. However, it doesn't seem to be a huge community outcry. We have a lot of other great stuff in our strategic plan that I prefer that we keep our focus on what the community asks us to focus on right now. But I mean, this is certainly something I think we can revisit at some point, but I wouldn't be comfortable revisiting this without new research. I think a lot has changed since 2019 in terms of work, childcare access. And I would love to hear more from the schools that have made the change. My understanding is several of those schools use a 2-tiered bus system rather than our 3-tiered system. So their experience may be completely different than what we're looking at. So I would be interested in to a Niskayuna, to a Troy, and to a Global. Maybe in a couple of years.
I worked at Presto, and some of the programs that are outside of here, how that would impact students concerns me, and I do think we spoke about it. A regional approach would be something that we should be collaborating with other districts together. I'm not so sure that now's the time to.
Sorry. I'm trying to find, I was trying to look up. I don't know the Red Mill, I'm still trying to figure out where that, spot goes. And I'm trying to, it just came back, sorry. I don't get it.
When we say regional, either Dr. Coates or Cindy, Ms. Aaron, which, I guess who would that be exactly? Not committing other districts, but like. With those
County
so
schools that share,
would be all Rensselaer County.
outside educational programs.
Mhm.
Sending districts, suburban council who participate in athletic programs or have a great impact on transportation to all of those things. If our students are off schedule, it's going to be.
So it's not even just suburban council, then it's all Rensselaer.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to figure out the scope of what region.
That's kind of the matrix of how involved our services are.
Yeah.
We are a member of the Quest R3 BOCES consortium. So when we think about special education service, vocational services, that's our commitment to the educational component. But then when we think about our commitment, obviously, to interscholastic athletics, to the tech high school, who Quest R has a relationship with as well, who pull us to the other side of the river and further north as well. Some of our athletic contests travel a great distance, and if you're upending start times, the ability for outdoor contests to be there in a timely fashion, I don't know that it could be achieved.
I would also be curious about how it would impact busing to our private schools. Right, when I drop off my high schooler very early, I see students transferring buses at the high school to get to other programs. So if we change that start time, it would also upend that transportation network.
So in preparation for the long range planning committee, Mr. Lips has started to do some data mining just to give you a perspective of how many schools we transport to. Daily, we transport to 63 different schools throughout the region. It's pretty extensive. So if I make sure I'm hearing properly, and I don't want to cut off the conversation, that perhaps we table this for a year, and at the beginning of the new academic, I believe it's after July 1st, we'll revisit to see if there's an appetite to consider this further. In the interim, I'll still make sure that Ms. Reamer scans the entire file. I'll make sure it goes out to everyone just so you have it as a reference point to look at your convenience, but we'll table this again.
All right, moving on to our next discussion item, the elementary principal postings at Green Meadow and Red Meadow.
So, as you're aware, we accepted the retirement of 2 of our elementary school principals, and I wanted to provide the board with an update on our efforts to recruit our newest principals to fill those vacancies. So we, the day before the Thanksgiving recess, have posted those vacancies in 3 different locations, if I'm not mistaken. We use our new Recruit Front software, which has a relationship with multiple different search engines as well. We also have posted to 2 leadership databases, both the School Boards Association and the Superintendent's Association. The posting is slated to run through December 31st. At that point, we will make an evaluation of the number and the quality of candidates that we see in our applicant pool. The hope would be by the 2nd week of January to begin committee level interviews. We have scheduled many budget meetings in the first week and a half of the month of January, so we have to delay a little bit. Pending that moves forward, we would have a 2nd round shortly thereafter, and keep the process moving to have successful candidates to the board at the first meeting. Obviously, if there's any concerns or feedback, I would appreciate that to hear that. One of the things that we're going to watch closely is how many applicants we do receive. We are very early with our posting, and that was by design. We wanted to make sure that we're attracting the best candidates that we could, and many times when we get postings out first, publicize your vacancies first, you're more apt to see those people that are truly pursuing the next level of leadership. I also want to thank the EGTA leadership. We were able to meet with each building level leadership committee at both buildings to help us find the desired characteristics of the next leader of each building. So that really was integral in the posting that we did for each respective building. I think we're truly focused on what the needs of the building are, but also most importantly, what the needs of the students. If there's any feedback on things that you would like to see in terms of the interview process or in terms of what we could do differently to make sure that we're getting the best candidate, obviously we take that feedback, but I think we are headed in a good direction. We're out early, which is a good thing as well.
I didn't see the posting, characteristics embedded in the posting individually.
There's the postings.
Yeah.
Those are on the website.
Yeah.
And the postings are also on the website.
And they include the characteristics.
Yeah.
Are you gonna look for a board member to be on?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You'll be asking.
Once we have the dates solidified, yes, I will get the calendar out so that we can make sure that the place.
Anything else? All right, so on to our regular business. We have the first reading of the East Greenbush Central School District Code of Conduct for 2025 and 2026.
So if you remember, our Code of Conduct Committee met earlier in the year, and one of the main topics of the Code of Conduct Committee was first looking at the distraction-free learning policy. And there were three notable changes that the committee had recommended for the board to consider. If you look at the document that was shared with you, we wanted to make sure that there was some level of accountability now that we were shifting from student use of their own personal devices, i.e. they could use their cell phones for many different apps and things that they were previously able to use on their phones. Now they had to use on their Chromebooks. A piece of data that we're getting from our IT services was that the number of incidents of repairs and requests for repairs for Chromebooks was creeping up. So we wanted to make sure that there was a level of accountability. So when we talk about district property, we added the word district property. Essentially, if they're causing damage to a Chromebook, that as per the Code of Conduct, we could hold them accountable. On page 10, it was just simply a name change that had come up. There was an outdated name there. And then on page 13, it was to amend the word electronic devices. So again, our focus in the Code of Conduct was on distraction-free learning with those updates. Our Code of Conduct, obviously, if there are other concerns, can always be updated at any time when the policy committee or the Code of Conduct committee comes together. They can review those. I know that there were some other topics that were concerned.
Yeah, I read through the code of conduct and a couple of things came to my attention regarding FAPE 22, which Dr. Coates addressed. FAPE 22 is our obligation to provide education to students until they turn 22, which is a relatively new requirement, but the code of conduct says up to 21. So I think just checking with council, making sure that the code of conduct doesn't have to include those students. And I just had a question when I was going through the portion of responsibilities and that section of who's responsible and what your role is as a board, as a superintendent. I just questioned why the school counselors were differentiated in there. And I would like the committee just to look at that. I am assuming it's because they addressed with support for mental health support and helping students make better decisions. But I'm wondering if that could also be inclusive of some of the other mental health clinical support people in the district and not just exclusive. There's other pieces of what in there about what a school counselor does, but it doesn't encompass all of things. So I just thought the community might want to take a look.
And I have those notes, so for our next meeting, I'm sure we'll bring it up.
Thank you.
I might be missing. Do we have the right version? Because it says in the attached memo that accompanies the changes that anything, additions will be redlined. I didn't see any additions to the version. And like, so on page 13, where it actually talks about the changes to the K-12 policy on electronic devices, kind of starts just with this one sentence that the devices included on limited. I feel like there should be some other language about the shifts and
So sorry, I'm not as catching up as quick as you are. So I'm looking like on page 6, she did change the district property to red font, and they kept up the where you want.
see it on.
Yeah, I don't really read. I
Yeah.
have lines on page 13.
Red.
Oh, yeah.
I do. I have read.
All right, I'll ask, so since this is only a first read, I'll ask Stephanie to amend it again and send it.
Okay.
On the second read.
Oh, I see it now.
You read?
I see it now. Are you on page 6?
Yeah, if you look at page 6, it is a different color, but I'll ask her to do it as a strike through and make it clear.
Oh, yeah, it's a very,
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
very
yep.
dull.
Now that I know, yeah.
But on page 13, it does feel like there should be, oh wait. Page. In the electronic, yeah, so it's page 13 of the document. It feels like we need a little bit more language there.
Well, no, the pieces that are being removed there are no longer allowed. That's why that's being removed.
But it just starts with the devices included on our phone, unless maybe I'm having a version.
Oh, I see what you're saying, but I see what you're both saying. We're not defining what devices are not allowed.
So I think the issue is that there's that subheading in between. I think the draw was back to the previous paragraph. I think-
Oh, got it. I think we just need to delete the 9 to 12 thing. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll make sure she cleans up the next word for the second read. No, this is just first read. This is the purpose of the first read, and we can clean it up for the next one for that.
Right. Moving on to the acceptance of the single audit report. Ms. Morgan, will you use this word?
Yeah, so at the last board meeting, we had our auditor. The circular hadn't, it was just finalized, the compliance supplement was just released. So this is just the final piece she had presented and talked about the single audit report. So that was able to be finalized in the last 2 weeks. So there's no changes to what was. So we're able to get into final.
Any questions or comments?
And I'm guessing it's an unmodified opinion and we're.
Yes, it's not my opinion. There were a couple of things that we had, items that we needed to take care of on the procurement side, and then we exceeded the minimum, the 4% on the unassigned fund balance, which we had already discussed. So, yep, but they were changing.
All right, can I get a motion to accept the single audit report? Rob, a second? RP, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, on to our committee reports. We'll start with Mr. Mahar.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney. My report tonight, my staffing report is focused on 3 departments district-wide. That's the food service department, the buildings and grounds, and transportation. And this report covers staffing as of July 1st, 2025. We have hired 4 food service helpers, 2 at Goff Middle School, 1 at Belltop, 1 at Green Meadow, and the status for that is we're fully staffed in that position. We hired also 1 cook at the middle school. We are now fully staffed. So our district-wide food service department is now fully staffed. Our buildings and grounds, we've hired 3 custodial workers since July 1st, 2 at Red Mill Elementary, 1 at Goff Middle School. And our status is we have 1 open position still at Belltop because tonight there's a resignation. Otherwise, we've been pretty steady. Transportation, we've made a lot of headway. I'm very proud to announce that we have a new supervisor of transportation, fully staffed there. We had hired one senior bus driver, and we're fully staffed. We have hired 10 bus drivers since July 1st. And as of tonight's passing of the consent agenda, we'll be fully staffed.
Oh.
Again, let's hope it stays for a while. And in addition,
With 2 new emergency drivers.
yeah, yeah, very, very useful. And I'm very proud to report also that we're finally fully staffed in our mechanics department. We hired another mechanic. So after our one that we hired last year, that was the first mechanic hired in 5 years. So now we have fully staffed in mechanics, and we're doing very well. The only area that we have left to do some work on is our bus aides. We have hired 3 since the start of the year, and there's 2 open positions. And I anticipate hiring another at the January Board of Ed meeting, so we're still looking for them. So we've made a lot of progress, and I'm very proud we're doing.
Great, thank you.
That concludes my stuff.
Any further comments?
I have a quick comment. I just definitely appreciate hearing all of the good work that's happening there. What I'm wondering is like, and it's more like a broad question. Like one, like how do we set targets for how many positions need to fill? Is one question. And the second question, would it make like how would we go about making a decision if there's a need to consider like building up our technology in today's climate? Reason why I asked, and I saw Mr. Goodwin in the curriculum committee report with the AI pilot and things like that. And I'm just thinking like how much things is anticipated to impact, whether you're talking about, you know, how we do things from the admin level, right? How we do things in the classroom, thinking about AI literacy broadly. And the reason why, you know, I mention it because I think so. For example, I know SWE, like as a model, like the administration has made AI literacy a component, you know, on a teaching level, but also at a student level, and saying how do we kind of, you know, embrace it like across our population. And I just know Mr. Goodwin has a lot of work that he's doing. I think it's great that, you know, he pitches in and contributes towards these bills, but I also think these are bills that's really, you can have a dedicated professional and still be scratching the surface. So I just want to just kind of pose that as a comment and just say, you know, how do you set targets and how can we make this?
Yeah, so I think coming to 10,000 feet, one of the things that we have to be honest about, our program dictates our staff. That's a constant that we have to realize when we change the program. So if our focus turns to we want to be cognizant of instruction, the impact of instruction, artificial intelligence, what impact does that have? Then how to educate staff. One of the things I think we need to be very transparent about is that doesn't mean net adds. You know, we're not in a place where our budget is going to be able to substantiate or bear the burden of having net adds to staff. So then that begs the question of, well, how do we achieve those new program goals? I think we need to look at things when we have vacancies in the instructional staff. And I'm just going to randomly pick. If it's forgive me, Mr. Wagner, if it's a retirement in a social studies teacher, does that social studies teacher position need to be repurposed in a different curriculum area? Is there something new and more relevant that is going to impact our overall instructional program? Some of that will be driven from what comes from the curriculum side of the house. Some of that will come from the board goals that help to inform that. But I think in terms of making significant shifts in our program, it's how do we do things differently with many of the resources that we already have? Because again, I just don't think we're in a budget wave right now, but the budget can substantiate having new ads.
Mr. Mahar, I guess I should have asked before, I apologize. For like a bus aide, I was just having to look, I know it's not the consent agenda, but if you work 4.75 hours, are you a day? Are you eligible for health insurance?
Yes, over 4 hours.
Okay. That's all.
Maybe possible to, these are great reports and I mean, great work filling these gaps to maybe get, not necessarily every meeting, but just more of the staffing summary of kind of where we are fully, what's fully staffed, where we have vacancies, maybe look at some, trends on like a quarterly basis. I think it would just help us as we, it would kind of get like the full picture. Instead of
What's
kind of,
still open district-wide in all our departments?
yeah, or yeah, just kind of a like a quarterly staffing report.
If you want to give us some specifics to focus in on, also make sure you know.
Yeah, I think when Marissa was the in HR, when we had started to kind of compile a report like that, which was helpful, just so like if you miss a meeting, you know.
Just seconding, Ms. Phillips, I think what you said about staffing trends, like these particular positions are hard to fill, there's a shortage, that's helpful information.
Yeah, even, I mean, it doesn't qualitative and quantitative, just your observations are also very helpful.
All right, moving on to the long range planning committee, minutes, Ms. Mulder and Dr. Coates.
I go first, I'll let you go first.
Some of the highlights of the meeting were really going over some of the things that board has been agreed on, like the capital project committee for the benefit of the committee. We provided an update as to where we are in that project, similar to the first evening. Also, we talked about EV bus mandate. Mr. Lips, our transportation supervisor, also attended the meeting. There was some good feedback about taking a look at, having a conversation with CDTA to get some feedback on some of their experiences, given it a little bit longer. Also talking about, some of the limiting deadlines that are coming up with the EV bus mandate specifically. That we wouldn't be able to buy any fuel buses beginning July 1st, 2027, but there's some extensions that SCD is that's going to be coming out in terms of that process and what that looks like. And then also looking to really start engaging. So that was one of the discussions. Also, as part of the strategic plan blueprint and the board goals, long range fiscal planning, formalizing that process was also discussed and could start as soon as just the baseline policy that is to that about that. The conversation of school start times came up as well. And then we also talked about some agenda items. The next meeting is going to be February 3rd. So we have already arranged for, thank you, Jimmy. We've already arranged for our town planning boards, our three largest towns, Greenbush, Skodak, and North Greenbush to come in and present on development within our district and what's going on in their world. And then also we're currently working on the enrollment projection study, so that will be available to be presented to the committee, and then will be later presented to the full board later. And then session.
I think going back to the long range fiscal planning conversation that we had, obviously one of the largest points of focus that we talked about is what is the board's commitment, what is the board's role on that. But one of the things that I'm working on with Ms. Reamer is many times NISBA, our policy service, will make policy recommendations. This is an anomaly for that. There's not necessarily a CAN policy. So we're trying to do some research to find some of the larger districts that might have engaged with work like this. A boilerplate or a baseline for you to start to consider, because that will be the starting point for any work that the board would do moving forward. Policy is going to dictate what are the guardrails, what is the structure, and what is the format by which we would engage in this work. This is a very heavy lift. It's very good work to do because it can help us look into the future. Issues of staffing, issues of facilities planning, transportation, dealing with changes in the energy market that we're looking at. All of those pieces could fit into a plan like this, but again, we want to make sure that we approach it in a systematic manner and not piecemeal. So we're trying to do some work on what does the policy look like and what would a bona fide policy look like that we could bring to consider. But again, it's gonna take us some time to find something.
I think one of the things we talked about too is that because of the comprehensive nature and breadth of this potential document, after the policy developed, is it requires some outside resources to help develop that down the road. Because it is really looking at a holistic view of the district. If you look at the item number 3, there in the planning, we're talking about sustainability of the district, including construction components. So it's a pretty big undertaking. In the past, we had done specifically fiscal long-range planning, and that kind of fills a little bit of a role, but doesn't really take into account a lot of the it's like that's the managing the money part versus what do we want to do? We have our goals, so we have goals as a district, we have our the blueprint we just mentioned, and then that's a lot of pieces that are managed and looked at. And if it takes an outside resource to do that, I think it's worth the investment.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Moving on to curriculum. Oh, I'm sorry. Mentor Steering Committee meeting and CCS meeting minutes. Was this hard?
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So we have our mentor steering committee that meets as necessary once we had our initial meeting. Every time we have a new instructional staff that gets hired and have initial certification, one of the things in our mentor blueprint says that we need to provide mentoring for their first year here. We actually assigned a mentor to a new E&L teacher that we have in Elementary. So that agreement is actually going to be approved tonight. And we updated our mentor list, and I'm happy to say that we have another cohort of teachers that are going to be doing a winter training for mentoring. So it's always great to have more mentors and teachers that are willing to step up to the plate and be part of that process. And I want to just say, again, I keep telling you that our mentor coordinator, that internal candidate has done an outstanding job. She has been working with Star 3 to provide a refresher training. Again, going back to our mentor blueprint, one of the things we have in our plan is that if you haven't mentored in the past 5 years, that you get a refresher. So she was really eager to coordinate and plan a professional development, which she will be offering at the February 6th Professional Development Day, 2 different times. It's a half day. And then we will have it again offered during the regional PD day that Questar will actually do. So we're excited about that and really pleased with how mentoring is going. That's our mentor steering committee.
I just say one comment. With the openings, we have 2 new principals, right? Administrative and principal mentoring is something we talked about.
There's a program.
The program was kind of in its initial phases. I think we need to revisit to make sure that we've covered everything we want to cover from an administrative mentoring standpoint. It was very new. And then we work with the administrators who get pretty closely to do those kinds of things. And then we'll make sure that we kind of take a look at it. There's a lot of board members here, new principals, our key administrative openings, things like that. I think mentoring our teachers and our administrators is equally as important because those roles, especially coming in, and I think the board would help the board understand what that process is for administrators.
Mr. Albee is the EGAA mentor coordinator.
So those are internal guidelines that we've done within the district. It doesn't come from state ed.
Correct.
The program.
Correct.
Right. This takes involved.
Last year.
So who picks does the mentee get to pick who the mentor will be, or is it?
It's actually a committee decision. We had a very lengthy, I think a very thoughtful and meaningful conversation. We really try to consider the department. We try to consider the whole culture of the building. We try to look at the pairings. It doesn't always, it's not always within the same department. Sometimes it's a good idea to have them step away from the department and have a mentor that they can see that has a lens outside, provides a perspective, and someone that they can confident they can look to outside of But sometimes it isn't within the department, just depends on the situation. Every mentee is different. And we try not to necessarily set a precedent and say it always has to be in the department.
But if it's a bell top, or, yeah, bell top or Janae, you're gonna have somebody in your school, right? If you're at Janae, you're gonna have a Janae mentor. You're not gonna have a bell
Try
top.
to keep it within the same building just because sometimes
Yeah, That's
proximity,
what I thought, okay.
but it doesn't always, sometimes, let me give you an example. We have a speech teacher that we hired this year, the mentee, and that's district wide. It's really difficult to have a speech mentor in the same building because a lot of times in some of our buildings, we only have one speech therapist.
Yeah.
Just depends. We try to keep it within the same building. Any other questions about mentoring? All right, I'll give a quick update on CCS. We had a short meeting. I actually was able to, I had to change it to virtual just because we had a snow day the day before and people appreciated having that next day virtual. So we ended up having a little bit of a shorter meeting. And the E&L teacher, Ida Marie, she gave a quick update on her program review. It's going well. I do believe they're meeting tomorrow to refine things and they'll be updating us in January on accomplishments. Really pleased about that. Our school counselors asked for a pause on their program review just temporarily because of the personal family crisis that occurred in that department. We had this summer, one of the things, and again, Mr. Ross, I'm pleased to say, first of all, that Mr. Ross, I'm not sure if anyone heard, he was nominated as the New York, I think, Channel 13 top teacher. Nobody had heard of that, but so Mr. Ross, they also had, crisis in their department. So he put off presenting his presentation this past summer. One of the things they did was they updated their Earth and space science curriculum to align with the new state expectations and with the new New York State exam. Worked on that. And I know I've been reporting on the portrait of graduate and we have a lot to do. I've been really looking for state guidance a little bit more. I think a lot of the regional schools have been. We are having a meeting tomorrow. I'm happy to report that the state has put out a little more information, waiting to hear what that is. And then after the new year on January 14th, there is a statewide, I guess you would call it a conference, mini conference, where we're all sitting and we're going to listen to the state. They're bringing some guidance from the elementary level. So I'm planning on starting the portrait of a graduate reconvene, I'll call it, because we've been working on that for a couple of years now. And towards the latter end of January to get it started up again. So I have more guidance to bring. We can start aligning our portrait of a graduate to New States, and we can create our roadmap and our timeline of how we need to move forward. Peter Goodwin provides a technology update, and he's been sharing that he's been doing some AI pilots in the district. He has one in a Spanish class, and he has two in a special education class. And Peter has been doing a great job of really just I call it just planting a seed and trying to really experiment in a very controlled way with AI in the classroom. Started mostly at the high school level, and I know that Peter is also planning on getting a subcommittee together to really start looking at an AI policy. Because the truth is, we don't want it to get ahead of us, and it may already be a little bit ahead of us. So he's going to be working on that. And we had a great conversation around professional development. We just reported on our 2 PD days, and people appreciate the balance. They appreciate in-person versus asynchronous. They appreciate diverse offerings. They really appreciate grade level meeting opportunities. And we have a new mandated child abuse mandated reporter training. So last year there was an update where everyone certified, whether you were a certified teacher or a licensed staff member, you had to take this updated child abuse training. This year, there's an addendum to that, which includes the intellectual and developmental disability, the population, which I'm really pleased to see. It's a 15-minute. It's not due for another year, but we want to give our staff opportunities at each of our professional development to do that. And that is my report. Thank you. Any questions?
Lisa, when you start doing the committee work, the subcommittee work, the portrait of graduate, towards the end of the school year, how would you envision communicating information from that subcommittee to the board? Would there be a presentation at the end of the year? Would there be something like that?
Yeah, I mean, even next,
Something helpful.
I definitely think that would be helpful. And the subcommittee will be, one of the things we actually took the education committee and we merged it with CCS. So at CCS, I will also be providing updates on the subcommittee work that we do. I'm trying to navigate doing some during the day and some in the evening because I do know we have some board members that would like to participate on that. So I think when someone cannot attend a meeting, possibly during the day, there will be opportunities then maybe the next month to meet. And we'll always provide a summary in the evening. So, yes.
So the meeting coming up gives some guidance on the financial literacy requirements.
I hope so. The financial literacy requirement is not, it's in what they call proposal phase. So in a 60-day comment period. And they meet every time there's an adoption. And then the Board of Regents in March, they're anticipating adopting, which they've been talking about it for quite some time. And actually, the 5 topics are very meaningful and very practical. Our children need this. It's going to be. There's also another requirement. It's going to be climate education. I was thinking about we need environmentalists. So we need to be able to solve all these, environmental concerns and issues that we potentially is happening.
I think the question is, the subcommittee that's in place now, I think this is important for everyone to be clear. On the portion of graduate, and there's no administrators on that subcommittee. It's strictly a teacher.
No, there's administrator. So it kind of went from a committee.
The subcommittee?
2 years ago, the committee went from the subcommittee. I haven't put together, and I'm going to push out. When we first started, it ended up being board members. It was parents. It was students. It was teachers. It was teaching assistants. It was, yes, administrators. And then it kind of morphed into more of teacher-led, and we had some administrators on it last year. And so that's where I'm trying to go into this year, making the determination, should we keep it with staff? And should we keep it just teachers and administrators? But I want to bring the board in. Do we bring in a student ambassador?
Okay, so
Who
we're going
wants
to
to
talk
be
about those.
involved? Yeah.
I think the frustrating piece is not knowing where to head from here,
Okay.
because the state is stalled on this. When we keep bringing people together and you can only talk about the
So
same thing
much.
so many times.
Okay, that makes sense.
The frustration is across the region.
Okay.
The state.
I see a little guidance.
Tomorrow, there's a meeting with West
Yeah, I'm not looking to give people more work, administrator. Goes on them. Your place your call too. So, just want to make sure it's comprehensive and representative of what we're trying.
I'm also curious, like, how would the AI subcommittee work kind of like going back in, so like thinking about like the implications across like curriculum or academic, like how will that work going back into the rest of the district?
I think when I was hearing you talk before about AI in general, and I think about what Peter's doing, and you had mentioned adding staff, and for me, I mean, I'm educator, and we always, as educators, we bring AI, we bring technology, it's integrated in everything we do every day. And I think it's going to be important that when we realign our curriculums, that we are bringing in instruction behind digital literacy, computer science, AI instruction. I think those are important conversations that we need to have. The new pathways, what are different ways to assess project-based learning, universal design learning, all of this stuff has to go into be integrated and embedded. I don't see it as a standalone. I wouldn't want to see it as a standalone. I'd want to see it across a student's day in every aspect, not just academics, in all of our departments, science, in music, in art, in PE, if it has to be, and across the board. So that's how I see it. I do think it will be a big part of it.
I also had a question about AI subcommittee. I just wanted to ask, because I think I know some students who would be really interested in being part of that. I think of my peers who technologically driven. So if you would want students to be part of that committee, that could be really valuable. And I know some-
I think Peter and I would both love their names. Oh, just ask them first before you show.
Oh, yeah.
Give your name. Okay. And if you're interested in being on council or even portrait of a graduate, I really think it's going to be important to have a student perspective because as the board goals, see, it is, the student experience is important.
Yeah,
And when,
yeah, yes. Well, I'm not sure how.
right? We don't want to volunteer, yeah. You didn't know that's what happens when you're not here. Anything else for Mr. Hart? All right, one more committee report, Dr. Cole's attendance committee.
So our attendance committee met and our initial focus was looking at the attendance brochure that all of our administrators and buildings use to communicate attendance questions and concerns with our families. And out of that morphed a larger conversation on the perspective of attendance post-COVID. That if you went pre-COVID, there was certainly a respect to, I need to be there every day, doesn't matter if you're sick, wipe your nose, get to school. Well, we know that COVID from a health perspective really made us re-examine that. But now that we're on the backside of COVID at the same time, the conversation really looked at parents and families' respect for attendance at school. And is there a new mindset that says, if it's less expensive for me to take this family vacation 3 days before recess starts, am I going to do that? And I think some of the feedback that we're getting is that that in fact is the case, that the life experiences that families can have together, and I'm not advocating homeschooling or anything like that, but a life experience that a family can have together, as long as they're not feeling that they are doing undue burden to their child's educational experience, they're going to take that latitude to make those decisions. So therefore, it took us to another lane of the conversation, what defines an excused absence versus what defines an unexcused absence. Obviously, if the parent calls and says, my child is sick, we can't really question that, and it goes in as an excused absence. However, if we see pictures on social media that they're in another part of the world, well, do we really want to go down that line? Place we really can't come out of. Really where it led us to further is how do we work with families better to talk about the value of attendance? And what we looked in a very systematic way at is the attendance letters that we use right now that in essence the state is really pushing us to use to encourage good attendance are very punitive in nature. You know, this will happen, that will happen, this person will be called, that person will be called. So what the committee is really starting to examine is how do we look at that from the lens of encouraging families to understand the value of good attendance in school? How can we work together with you? Again, I don't know that that's going to change the mindset of it's more valuable for me to have these 3 days with my children in this part of the world or this state. But if a family is struggling, if we take that punitive lens off of the letter that we send, is it going to be more encouraging for them to reach out to a building administrator or a director, or if a building principal picks up the phone and calls, that they're actually going to answer and have some more meaningful dialogue. So we wrapped up by that will be our focus. We're going to, like I said, look at the pamphlet itself, but also look at our communication mechanisms. We're still going to meet the mandate per se, if you will, that will be notifying families that we are watching, monitoring attendance. We want to encourage a relationship with you. But how do we do that in more of a proactive and encouraging tone for them to use the resources that we have, to be able to take advantage of the services that we can offer if they're struggling. So again, follow the state's lead on attendance as well.
Are we seeing a large absenteeism of students right now, of all ages?
So I think
It's statewide. Yeah.
So remember, the threshold for chronic attendance is very low. So what we are seeing now is post-COVID, those numbers are higher than what we were seeing.
But specifically, this would be too hard to do, but I would love to know the specifics of student X has missed 7 days.
Yeah, we can run that holistic data for
And
you.
find out. It's more like, are they missing 7 days and they're struggling in class. Not just that they're struggling in class because they don't like school, they're struggling in class because they have mental health. Yeah, I don't know if there's a connection between all of those things.
And I think you're going to see a mix. I think you're going to see some that are chronically absent that are in the highest percentile. You're going to see some that are chronically absent that principals at the elementary level will be talking about retention of. I don't think there's going to be a broad standard across the board, but we'll run some codified data and just get it out to you so you have a benchmark to look at.
I think it makes sense, right, to have an idea where all of our students are. I just worry sometimes, because the truth is, right, all students are so different, right? And looking at one measure, I don't know that, as a board, we'll have the context to really understand the diversity of our students and what's going on or what impacts what. So I just have a concern, like, when I hear that, about, how are we going to use it and what is it going to mean to us?
I'm glad that you just brought that up. Because the last state report card was just released by the state. And if you drill down on that data, one of the things that they list are chronically absent students. There's one singular measure that you don't know behind the scenes. Is that a medical issue? Is that a tragedy in the family, whatever the case may be? Those students still are listed as that. And you don't know the context behind that. And some of it truly is negligence, and our administrators are very diligent on making CPS calls and utilizing the resources that they have. But some, there's more to the story.
I just wanted to, because I was the former MGSS coordinator and still a big part of that. But one of the things that I have to give our principals credit for is they do, I would say, if it's not trimester, they do quarterly look at attendance reports with their teams, and they actually really dig in and analyze what's going on. And that's part of our MGSS process, that we look at multiple measures and say, what can we be doing? Can we be doing more? Why are they, so there's a lot that goes into it.
Oh, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Hart, for and the work of MTSS, and thank you, Dr. Coates and the committee for the non-punitive approach that you're taking and trying to be encouraging. Because I think often the punitive approaches hurt those with the least means. And you see, for example, with library fines, right? It was like you get a library fine. Some people can just brush it off, but some maybe maybe not the whole family doesn't have access to the library because they're late on one book or they lost a book, and there could be a million reasons why. So in that, I think that in having dependence on that, we're taking this very individual approach, trying to pull out the punitive. Maybe there's nobody at home in the morning to help the kid get to school. You miss the bus. They can't leave work, or they miss the bus. There is someone home, but they don't have a car. They can't get you there. So there can be a number of reasons. So yeah, I really appreciate that we're taking, an approach of care and sensitivity. I would say in our mission, just being welcoming and affirming to all students wherever they are. So thank you.
I think too, the letters were really consistent to the process. So there is good work behind the scenes helping families, and the letters were not indicative of that. It really came off as very straightforward, punitive, and not reflective of the hard work and the support that the administrators and the teams are doing.
And then it can we also lead to just shaming a family that has a problem. They're trying to get their kid to school. There's reasons why they can't, and it's just, you just don't need that shaming. When we could be, from what it sounds like, we're doing really just helping, encouraging, and trying to do what we can to get everybody to pass.
Also create an adversarial reaction too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, has that process really been updated?
From the state.
From the sending out letter pamphlet.
So that.
When's the last time that was updated? It changed, because I remember when Marty was the assistant principal at the high school.
So the process itself is somewhat regulated by the state, that you're supposed to have some kind of communication mechanism with your family, but looking at those letters, no, I don't.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because I experienced that. That we're talking about. Appreciate you taking a look at this. It was pretty disheartening when this was a long time ago. The administration was going on, but also there's this formal process that goes in place that no one takes the time to just say. We're the issue. Then you create the relationship with them.
And some of the feedback that I got from the administrators spoke to exactly that. that
They
they
do a lot of
do,
work.
But at the same time, they felt compelled. Yeah, they hit the 10 days, they need to go left. Yeah, so.
Pretty aggressive one.
Yes.
Moving on, we don't have any table motions. We do not have any old business. So we are moving on to the consent agenda. Any questions? All right, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? RP, do I have a second? Sam, all in favor? Great. There's no addendum. Do we have any new business? All right, moving to our second public forum. Any members of the public? Mr. Alvey.
Cover up my my stripes there, but I just wanted to take a moment and share an event that happened over this weekend that was really reflective of who we are as a school district community. This past Saturday, our school, with collaboration with our PTO, transportation department, we did a community fundraiser for an employee within our district. You know, I just have to say, as we look at this season, what a great event it was. To see members of our transportation department out. I actually want to give a little kudos to the team that came out. Mary Craig, Tiffany Scott, Hillary Mellett, Susan Donahue, and Kathy Schmidt, along with our custodial team, Andrea LaPlante and Luke LaRose, our PTO leadership, Ashley Drummond and Christina Clark. They really put together a great event. It was a craft fair and a dinner that benefited a challenging situation that the Ingram family is going through. But, you know, during this time of the year, as we look, our community always comes together to support one another. And that's what it's all about. And I felt I wanted to share that with the members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Just making, just think about, our teachers, our administrators, and thinking about the letter are so vocal to the families of our communities, right? I'm very central. It's just amazing how much, everyone handles, and how in touch you are, with what's going on. It's just amazing to hear great work. I think that positive.
What I loved about it, Jesse, was to see, as a school district, our transportation department, our PTO, our faculty, our parents, all coming together to support a family that really needs it right now. So, and having been here 21 years, we've seen it regularly here in our community, and that's something that we should be really proud of in who we are as a school district. Thank you.
Thank you. What else?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to congratulate East Greenbush Police, Rensselaer, North Greenbush. Last weekend, they completed Shop with a Cop, which is a tradition that has been going on for a few years. Something that Officer Lavin and Elaine Brzezinski have really put together with the school districts for kids that are in need. Give them an opportunity to make that relationship with East Greenbush and other law agencies. I believe that there were over 12 students who participated this year. A lot of great publicity for the county, but also for East Greenbush as well, and for the police departments that were associated with that. And at Janae, I can speak to the parents that we recommended and actually attended. The kids had a wonderful time. It was a really joyful experience for them and for the families who may have had some of those deterrent factors that may impact how they might view school and the relationship that they might have with law enforcement and things like that. So kudos all law enforcement agencies, and kudos all the schools that partnered with them to to make a really memorable event for everybody. So thank you.
So we're going to our final board form. I'll start with.
I just want to say congratulations to our newly tenured elementary education faculty. Caleb, you great job, and thank you for your work.
I just want to mention, thank you for setting up the board goal. I do think that I mentioned last meeting, maybe incorporate some conversation around the board goals in the future, discussion items or component of that for the agenda, because even if it's a few minutes, we have that document, let's take a look at some things. See how we're going to do it moving forward.
Are you suggesting in a public, like, is that gonna be another retreat type situation?
I would suggest we look at the board goals, maybe Catherine and comes to do that and look at what we're committed to and have a brief conversation about what direction we're going in some of those soon to be accomplished goals of this year. 2006. And maybe it would require a board retreat to get further to see topics. So we're in that phase. And, just we discuss that as a board to plan those out. Some things maybe just the subcommittee that's involved with some of the things in here, we just report out. We just develop those working groups and things like that. So those brief conversations.
So I do want to share one thing before we end for the night. I just wanted to share that the Columbia Players Musical this year is going to be presented. And yes, and thank you. And I'm excited as well. And we had our first script read through yesterday. It went very well. And we're going to be getting our rehearsals underway after the break. So
When is it?
the musical?
Yeah.
It will be the 26th. As of right now, it's the 26th through 28th.
After break, right? That's actually.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I just want to say kudos to HR. There were some good hires tonight on the consent agenda that were hard to fill positions. So, there you go.
Thank you. Well, it was a team effort and that weekend event on November 15th to try to bus into the future. Really, get things going. We had 25 people show up, and out of that, we had 8 people that signed up. And subsequently had 10 interviews that came. And we're now building up our fleet of substitutes in addition to our full staff. So we'll be looking good as well. But thank you.
I do agree. I thought that was a stellar example of leadership for Ms. Mahar and Ms. Dr. Coates. Taking that training, right, getting involved in the transportation department. I thought that was excellent. I love that. And also want to say I was sad to see Mr. Garib's position post. Ms. Gulachi, I think that great contributions to the district. And, I know you touched many lives over the time here, but it was kind of like bittersweet, but I'm definitely just every reflection is an opportunity, and looking forward to seeing how, we could use their experience better the district.
Okay. We do have a need for an executive session tonight to discuss the employment history of a particular individual. So can I have a motion to go into executive session? Robert, and a second? Cindy, all in favor? Great, thank you to everyone who's here tonight.